Tumbling Fork, Mississippi, here in Sharkey County. Over a dozen
Opinionated, outspoken, informative. The Jaguar Journal. Your source for the latest information on Southern University sports and SWAC athletics. A Baton Rouge sports talk tradition. Now, here's your host, Reggie Flood.
Y'all wake up with me. It's the Jaguar Journal. Perry White. Man, Flood will join me a little later in the show. Hope you guys are up on this Saturday morning. Woo! Just thankful to be up. All right, let's jump right into it this morning. It is March Madness. If you've been keeping up, basketball is in full swing, coming down to the Elite Eight. If you've been keeping up with it as well, baseball is for sure in full swing. We'll talk about Southern University baseball because every time we get started, somebody, gets on YouTube and makes a comment typically at about 8:30 and say, when you going to talk about baseball? Well, we do that in the first hour, about 7:30. Try to get down to baseball and just, a lot of things have transpired. I know we're going to have a show today where we're going to talk about it. Southern University has let go of their basketball coach, head basketball coach Sean Woods. After 5 years, they finally parted ways, did not renew the contract. So it was a mutual thing. Hey, we're going one direction. We rather just go ahead and keep it going. And so that should be a big conversation because there are names circling around all over the place in terms of hypothetically who people believe will be the next basketball coach at Southern University, which will be interesting. Southern also this week with Roman Banks, athletic director, who's we're going to try to get him on here in the future. I think maybe within the next 2 weeks to have him come on and give us a little bit more details. But Southern University has now started a golf program, men and women's golf as well as men's tennis. And I remember we had Coach Jeff Conyers, who currently coaches women's tennis and won a lot of championships at Southern. He spoke on it some months back when he came on and he was out of recruiting, looking for some players and was talking about the possibility of Southern then moving forward here in the future about getting a men's tennis team. And it seems to be the thing. And when you look at these sports, men and women golf, you talk about adding tennis now where we already have women's tennis. What this does is put you in a position to be able to compete for that Commissioner's Cup. Sometimes you kind of fall behind to the Texas Southerns or the Alabama States or the Prairie Views. Well, I shouldn't say Texas Southern, but the Prairie Views and the Alabama States because of just the number of sports that they have. And it's hard to compete for a Commissioner Cup when you don't have the exact number of exact number of sports programs that's being played because that's where that cup comes from, being able to bring in championships from multiple sports. And so with Southern adding men's and women's golf and tennis, that should be a good thing in terms of athletics. Now it's going to come down to support. Will you guys support it? Those are sports that's typically not supported, but will you guys support it? Will you help it be successful? The same way I look around at the rest of the sports, softball, volleyball, bowling. Coach Doyle is doing a great job, a hell of a job at Southern. He was the coach of the year with Southern's bowling team, women's bowling team. Then you look over on the other side, basketball. Of course, that's going to be the topic today. I'm pretty sure Chris and some other people are going to call in and want to talk to us about it in terms of the direction. Where we're going to go? Where would you like to see Southern University go in terms of basketball is going to be the question today. Who would you like to see to be the next head basketball coach at Southern University? We love football. We love our football dearly. But then when it comes to basketball, and I think when you've seen the potential of Southern over the past few years and the potential that they could have on in basketball, those hot starts, some non-conference victories here and there, boom, come to conference and start off red hot, right there in the thick of things at the number 1, 2, 3 spot. And then it's like when you get that midpoint in conference play, it just hits, just study goes down, down, down. And that's been hard to watch, I think, for anybody who's a fan or a supporter of Southern University basketball, you see the potential. But why is it that you reach that peak so soon in mid-conference play and then plateau out once you get towards the conference tournament? And that is a tough thing to watch. So, of course, Roman Banks decided to move on from Sean Woods as the head coach at Southern University. It's going to be interesting. Sean Woods in 5 years. Overall record was not a winning one. And I'll talk more about that when we get to the 8 o'clock hour. Football is underway. Coach Eric Dooley and the football team. Of course, we had him on last week talking about the campaign, the capital campaign that they have in order to raise money to redo the locker rooms. So you guys be sure to support that. They're going to be doing a crawfish boil the day of the Southern University spring football game. That will be April 1st. $25, I believe, for the crawfish plates. And so they're trying to raise as much money as they can. So you guys support them. If you want to be a part of the cause in terms of helping Southern University football team get a new remodeled locker room, on top of just football is going on. Spring practice, the quarterback race is interesting at Southern, where a lot of people are going to have their eyes looking. I know I will. That's the number one position I look for when I look at the team. I start with the quarterback, then I go into the trenches, and then I work my way out. But that signal caller is not. That's that number one thing for me. Then you go to the trenches for me, O-line, D-line, and then we'll see what we're working with from there, from wide receiver to running backs to DBs to linebackers. We'll figure it out. But altogether, this has been interesting when you look at the spring because we're getting ready. We're getting ready to get this thing going. I'm looking forward to April the 1st. I'm ready to see some Southern University football. At the same time, I'm interested because I'm ready to see who's going to be the next Southern University basketball coach. Baseball is rolling. Hopefully they can get things on track. I got to get Coach Crenshaw on here. You know, as long as he's been the coach, I don't think we've had Coach Chris Crenshaw on the show. So we're going to have to get him on. And anybody out there that wants to call in, the number is 225-499-1073, 225-499-1073. You can call in, talk to me. Give me a topic. We can talk about whatever you want. Today's show's going to probably be all over the place. I'm going to be talking about March Madness for sure because we got to start talking about our parlays. We got to talk about your brackets. How many of you guys out there have these teams in the Elite Eight? Pretty sure not many. All the number one seeds are out. Purdue, Kansas, Houston. Houston got put out last night. And that was interesting enough in terms of that game with Houston. San Diego State is a team that's looking good, too. And Alabama got put out by San Diego State. So it's March Madness for a reason, man. Things are heating up. I'm going to go through the bracket with you guys. We're going to talk about some college basketball, look around at some things, and as well as keep the conversation going. We're getting ready, about the time to get ready to take a break. I want to say good morning to everybody that's on YouTube tuning in to us. Good morning to everybody out there in Radio Land on 107.3 for tuning in this morning. You know we bright and early on Saturday, so if you up and you hear my voice, good morning to you. And let's get ready to take a break. Got to pay some bills. We'll be right back. Stay tuned more to Jaguar Journal.
Care South is now providing COVID-19 drive-through community testing at their Baton Rouge clinic. Testing is available for anyone with or without symptoms and no doctor's order required. No insurance? Care South will cover the cost. Care South is a federally qualified health center providing comprehensive medical, dental, and behavioral health services, offering telehealth services and an in-house pharmacy. Satellite clinics in Donaldsonville, Plaquemine, and Zachary. At Care South, we're here for you. Care South. Family serving families.
Yeah. All right, let's get it going. That ought to wake you up this morning. Boosie Bass was last week in Baton Rouge, so you know. I'm gonna jump right back into it. Good morning to everybody. I'm Perry White. It's the Jaguar Journal. Shout out to everybody that's out there watching in YouTube land, being able to catch us live. And if you want to catch us live and you rather look at me than just hear me, go on YouTube and type in the Jaguar Journal, become a subscriber, and be a part and say, hey, I just want to look at you and I want to come in. Plus, that's a bit easier way to come in. I know a lot of people sometimes don't want to call in, and you have a better chance to be able to come in on the YouTube and be able to interact with us on there. Good morning to everybody out there in Radio Land, 107.3 FM here in Baton Rouge. A lot of people, I'm sure, are up moving around this morning, Saturday morning in Baton Rouge. And then when you talk about South Louisiana on a Saturday morning, that is a good time of the day because typically our Saturdays are beautiful. We dodged the bullet of severe weather of yesterday. If you saw some places in Mississippi, Rolling Fork and some other places got hit hard from that storm that came through the South yesterday. We thought we were going to get it here yesterday. Is they moved the game up with LSU and Arkansas to 12 o'clock yesterday. Initially, it was supposed to start, I believe, at 6. And so because of that, they moved that up in some games. I know BRCC was up in North Louisiana taking on Bossier Parish Community College. They ultimately canceled that game, and Bossier Parish Community College said, you know what, we'll just cancel classes for the rest of the day. So, you look around in different areas, there were some spots in terms of institutions that decided, hey, we're just going to either move it up or we're going to cancel it. So thankfully, we were able to dodge that severe weather bullet. Some sprinkles, rain a little bit here and there, but ultimately we didn't get the brunt of it. But if you starting to wake up and you pay attention to the news this morning, you'll start to see the stories coming out of Mississippi and other places in terms of severe weather that happened overnight. So prayers to those people and their families. It's never good when you have to deal with something like that because, listen, I understand when you're talking about having to put it all back together. So, let's make sure we keep those people in our prayers. And as we continue to get back on track, Southern University, I talked about this when we started the show, brings back golf and tennis, men's tennis. Southern University Director of Athletics Roman Banks announced Friday that women's golf, men's golf, and men's tennis will be returning to the Bluff. The Jags will begin competition in the newest NCAA-sponsored sports for the 2023-2024 academic season, all right? So that's when they're going to start it up, 2023-2024 academic season. Coach, I still call him Coach Roman Banks, but Athletic Director Roman Banks said we're excited for the return of our golf programs and our men's tennis. Golf is a sport that's popular. Popularity is on the rise. This will create an opportunity for another group of student athletes to not only compete at the next level at SU, but have a chance to get a great education. We have a rich history and tradition, and we are very excited to bring these three sports back to the Bluff. That was a statement by Southern University Athletic Director Roman Banks. When you go back and you look at Southern University, SU has won 5 SWAC championships in men's golf, and they were all back in the 80s. 1984, 1985, 1986, 1987, and 1988, the year I was born, was their last golf championship. You look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive men's golf SWAC championships. So Southern at one time seemed to be very dominant in men's golf. Women's golf has won 7 SWAC championships, and their success came in the 90s and the 2000s. Southern University women's golf team winning a SWAC championship in 1993, 1994, 1995, 1999, 2000, 2003, and 2004. So a lot of championship pedigree. Even on the other side, when you look at women's golf in the SWAC conference, and Southern winning 7 of those on the women's side and 5 of them on the men's side in golf. And then let's turn our attention to men's tennis, in which Southern has won 12 SWAC championships. So if you can imagine, it's a lot of championships. So you will want to get back to a sport that you've had your success in. And that's why I say it matters when you go for that Commissioner's Cup. When you start adding championships in these particular sports, let's say men and women's golf, let's say men's tennis to go along with women's tennis, bowling, and all those other sports, you then begin to put yourself in that conversation and now compete fully for that Commissioner's Cup, which goes out to the program with the most championships within the conference. And for Southern University men's tennis team, Out of those 12 championships, they were won. The first one was in 1979, 1980, 1985, 1986, 1987, 1991, 1992, 1993, 2002, 2003, 2004, and the last championship in men's tennis came in 2008. So when you look at overall at bringing back three sports programs, be a part of your athletic program overall that has championship pedigree, you have to have some excitement about that. You got to be able to support these programs, and you want to see will they have that same success as they had in the past. Like I said, Southern University, 5 SWAC championships in men's golf. Southern University, 7 SWAC championships in women's golf. Southern University, 12 SWAC championships in men's tennis. So that is interesting when you look at those programs. Welcome back to those programs. And we'll try to get coach or athletic director. I just can't help myself by calling him Coach Roman Banks. Will he name himself the next basketball coach at Southern? That's what we want to know. That's all a part of this whole, what is this going to be? How is this going to turn out in terms of basketball? But that's time for another time later in the show. But, I want to talk to him about who's going to be the coaches, give us an opportunity to find out what these programs are going to look like in terms of the scheduling, whether they're going to be competing for, obviously, SWAC championships. But, how do you maneuver when you talk about men and women's golf and you then add in men's tennis? And what's the future like for these programs once you bring them back? How do they sustain themselves? Because they are non-revenue sports. They don't generate anything. But I don't think it's nothing bad to sit at a golf course all day and hang out and ride around. I'll drive the golf carts. How about that? If they need a job at Southern, Perry would drive the golf carts at the golf competitions. All right, that's what I'm good for. And I'll put a cooler on the back. All right, and that way I have a way to hang out where they compete and I can cheer them on. But you can't really cheer in golf, right? You gotta be quiet. All right, I gotta wait until a big shot. That's the only thing about golf. I try to watch it on TV and everybody's like, shh, be quiet. And I'm used to yelling, being loud and boisterous like I am every Saturday on this radio, and I can't do that in golf. So I guess I just drive the cart with the cooler on the back. So Roman Banks, if you need somebody to drive the golf carts for the golf competitions, hey, I'm your guy, all right? I won't even charge you anything. There we go. I love my album. I give back any way that I can. Now, tennis is different. I know I've gone out to check out Coach Jeff Conyers in women's tennis. A heck of a coach Coach Conyers is as well, being able to go out and find young ladies all around the country and bring them to Southern, as well as his coaching tree. I think that's the untold story in terms of how deep his coaching tree has grown from young ladies coming to Southern, winning championships, playing under him, and then going on to get their own programs, particularly right here in the conference. You've seen it all around with Jackson State and Alcorn for sure, in terms of former players at Southern graduating and going on, taking on programs. So big shout out to Coach Jeff Conyers. He's a Georgia boy. We let you know that, too, every time. He's from Georgia. So in terms of the program he's been able to build over there for a while, man, when you talk about HBCUs, when you talk about SWAC tennis on the women's side, he was the standard when you talk about overall just competitive nature his teams have had. But then guess what? When you start to raise up the next generation of coaches and they come out of your coaching tree, you better believe sometime they'll be the ones that's pushing you. And for Jeff Conyers on the tennis side, he started to see himself getting pushed by his former players who are now who then took over as coaches. So you start to see Alcorn women's team play well. You start to see Jackson State's women's team play well. And so that's just a testament to the coaching tree that he's been able to build, and those young ladies that have come and gotten a great education down here in the boot and ultimately went on and become successful other places. So shout out to Coach Jeff Conyers this morning. I'm pretty sure he's up somewhere having a cigar and some coffee and enjoying a beautiful Saturday morning, like if you're listening, what you're doing this morning. And once again, good morning to everybody out there on YouTube. If you're paying attention and listening this morning, good morning to everybody out there listening. If you're up about to go wash your car, if you're up about to clean up the house, cook breakfast, I hope you're going to cook some breakfast. Nothing like getting the day started, smelling some good breakfast on the stove, getting ready. And I can tell you as a kid, it just brings back memories of the fact of waking up and knowing some breakfast is being cooked. It does something to start the day. It's something about the smell to the mind and the feeling overall that just makes you feel like today's going to be a good day. As Ice Cube said. And that's what it feels like when you be able to do that. But then guess what? You got those chores after that. You eat that breakfast, it's time to clean up this house, all right? Got to clean up this house. Matter of fact, while you're at it, go out there and wash that car. See, I'll get you chores real quick. Your Saturday, don't tell me you bored in my household. There's always something to do. As a matter of fact, that's what I be doing when I leave here. I got to go and do some yard work. So y'all, I ain't going to say pray for me, but I always take a prayer or two, when you out there doing that yard, because this time of year, you got to deal with the snakes and I hate the lizards. Some people I know they don't have no problem with them. I absolutely hate them little lizards that's everywhere. I'm not used to stuff like that. So that lizard, you better stay out my way. That weed eater might become. Well, no, I'm not gonna do that to the lizard. I'll let the lizard go. I ain't gonna do nothing to him. So I don't want nobody even say, "Hey, man, Perry, he taking the lizards out." No, I'm not. But overall, the programs at Southern getting started. Men and women's tennis is now a thing at Southern, and men and women's golf is now a thing at Southern. So congratulations to those programs. Much success to them in their future. And we got to get ready to take a break. When I come back, if you like baseball now, I know people always say, "What do you talk about baseball?" I got you in the next, after we come out the break. The next segment is going to be dedicated to baseball. So y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. More of the Jaguar Journal. right, 7:33 a.m. It's the Jaguar Journal. I'm Perry White. Getting things going. Baseball time. Southern University baseball last week went up to North Louisiana to take on the cousins of our cousins at Grambling State. In a 3-game weekend series, Southern University took on Grambling starting that Friday night at Willis Ellis Field. They lost 7-8 in the 12th inning on Friday. Then Saturday came back and got an 8-7 hard-fought 12th inning victory. Man, those extra innings are where you thin it in. I think it caught up to them on Sunday, taking on Grambling 16-6. Grambling State wins the series. Southern falls behind 1-2 in that series, in that 3-game series. Southern then moved on to take on the University of Houston. They've been in Houston pretty much the whole week in baseball. Took on the University of Houston, a game in which it was nationally televised, ESPN Plus. If you're able to stream that or get that. They fell behind in this one and never could really get up out of it. 16-7, University of Houston with the victory over Southern. Tough one, but last night Southern was able to get back on track. As I said, they stayed in Houston, a 3-game series this weekend with Texas Southern, getting a victory 11-9, a hard-fought victory, 11-9 with Texas Southern. 3-game series this weekend over in Houston. Their first pitch again today, Saturday, will be at 2 o'clock. Versus Texas Southern. If you're in the Houston area tomorrow, it'll be at 1 o'clock on Sunday. So all the Jaguar fans that's listening far and wide, if you're in the Houston area, the Jags need your support this weekend as they're in Houston, taking on Texas Southern today, 2 o'clock first pitch, 1 o'clock first pitch on tomorrow, Sunday. Then Jags return back to the state of Louisiana, but still on the road. They'll head over to Lake Charles to Joe Miller Ballpark and take on the McNeese State Cowboys. March the 28th, Tuesday, first pitch at 6 p.m. Anybody not able to be there live to watch that game, don't worry. It will be on ESPN Plus. So Southern getting some opportunities being on ESPN Plus. That should be a good one with Southern and McNeese. McNeese beat Southern the first time around here in Baton Rouge 10-3. So Southern now has an opportunity to go on the road and repay the favor if they can before next week with the home series against Alcorn State. 3-game series. It'll be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, depending on how the weather goes. But right now, it'll be those 3 days. And interesting enough, because there'll be a lot going on the Bluff when you talk about spring football, the spring football game. Then you're going to have baseball going on. So tailgating should be a premium next week when you look at the Bluff with what all is going to happen with Alcorn coming to town in baseball. And, right now I'm looking at can Coach Crenshaw get this team back to his winning ways, struggling right now. Southern is yet to win an out-of-conference game. You know how I feel about that when I come on the radio, because I start to go on a rant or I just get the rambling and talking, because non-conference games matter, man. You just can't beat up on everybody in the conference and don't get anybody out of conference, regardless of the competition, regardless of the names on the jerseys. You got to go out there and get it. And I think they have an opportunity when you look at this upcoming game Tuesday against McNeese State. That is a must-win. That ain't a game you just say, let's go in and hope we can compete. That ain't a game where we try. No, that's a game you got to have. And you got to get your team revved up and let them know they got to have that game against McNeese State when you look at non-conference. Another non-conference game coming up for Southern will be on the road to the University of South Alabama, of course, over there in Mobile, Alabama. That'll be April the 4th. The Jaguars versus the Jaguars, something you don't see often with those two mascots. April the 11th and the 12th right now, Southern has 2 games scheduled, midweek games against an out-of-conference opponent in Nicholls State. Yeah, I could talk about the conference games all day, but I know what we could do in those. It is the non-conference that are crucial to me. Mississippi State on April the 18th. Hell, I don't care if it's Mississippi State. Let's go win that thing. We don't give them dubs because of the name on the jersey and because they may have a bigger ballpark. Hell, let's go win that thing, right? Then you take on UL in Lafayette, April the 25th. Let's go win that thing. This is how you establish your program to be a regional dominant team or just let your presence be known. And last year, when I look back at Southern's baseball program, you got May 9th against UNO. Let's win that thing. It's in Baton Rouge. You got to get those non-conference. And there's some on here that you can get. UNO, Nicholls, UL has a good program. Mississippi State has a good program. So what? Go get those victories. South Alabama, get that victory. We fell short to South Alabama in that invitational that they had not too long ago. 3-8, South Alabama was able to get that victory, and that was in the South Alabama Invitational, which Southern took on University of Iowa, Pepperdine, and the University of South Alabama. But for me, you got to get those victories. I jump back, as I was saying before. I look back to last year's schedule. When you look at wins and losses, Southern did what it had to do in conference play. It was the non-conference. Southern won only one game in non-conference last year, not a series. Out of a whole season, just one non-conference game, and that came in a 3-game series against the University of Texas San Antonio. They was able to squeak out one of the games in that series, and that was their lone only non-conference victory. We got to do better than that. I know this team competes for SWAC championships. They were one game away last year from playing for I think a third consecutive SWAC championship game. Southern had won back-to-back SWAC championships. And I love all of that, right? I love that's fine and dandy that we're able to win championships. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about. But you got to build your resume up as you come up with those non-conference games, because that's going to determine that seeding. So you won't have to go into that regional having to automatically be up against the wall. And these teams that we're playing, I mean, is it easier said and done for me to just sit here and say we should have a chance? But I'm looking at a McNeese State and I'm looking at a Southern. I say Southern should not lose 10-3. Southern should go out there and win that game. I'm looking at a UNO. I'm looking at a Nichols. Good programs, right? No knock to them, but I'm just looking at those are winnable games. Those programs aren't your juggernauts. They're not LSU. They're regional teams, regional programs. You got to be able to do that. And so far, when you look at non-conference, anytime we play non-conference opponents and they are in the state of Louisiana, you got to establish your dominance in this state. Athletic program as a whole. I don't care what the sport is. We can be flipping quarters. You got to go out there and compete and bring some of those victories home overall when you look at this playing non-conference, especially when you playing in-state schools. Overall, let's go to the SWAC standings. Of course, over in the SWAC East, Florida A&M is leading the way. They are 4-0, 10-12 overall. Right behind Florida A&M, their sister school, Bethune-Cookman, 3-1 in baseball, 12-10 overall. Alabama State right behind them, 2-2 in conference play, 13-10 overall. Alabama A&M 2-2 along with their sister school, Alabama State, 2-2, 10-10 overall with record. Jackson State struggling a little bit in conference play, 1-3 right now, 13-6 overall. And then Mississippi Valley 0-4, 7-15 overall. Then you come over and you look at the SWAC West. Let's start at the top. Prairie View, who's 3-0 in conference play, 6-16 overall. Woo. That's a tough one, but Prairie View has won their last 4 games, so they seem to be trying to get it back on track. Grambling State 2-1, 6-14 overall. Texas Southern and Southern both tied at 2-2. This matchup this week in this series is crucial. You're looking at third place, possibly with a position to be in second place right now, depending on how it going. Southern on the right track, getting that victory last night. But Texas Southern 2-2, 16-9 overall. Southern University 2-2, 6-14 overall. The Jags going to have to get some victories to that win column and get us at least. We got to get to 500 Jags. All right, and right below them, my man Carlos up there at Pine Bluff has the team 1-2 in conference play. They're 7-14 overall, and then Alcorn State at the bottom, 0-3, 1-15. Alcorn was the team that struggled last year. I want to say they ended the season maybe with 1 or 2 victories on the entire season in baseball. They seem to be headed in that same direction this year. When you look at 1-15, 0-3 in conference play. I guess right now, when you look at the best baseball that's being played in the conference, I would have to look over in the SWAC East with Florida A&M, Bethune-Cookman, and even Alabama State. All of those programs, when you look at their overall records, they're formidable. And when you look at their competition in terms of their conference record, those are some pretty good records. That's the way you want to get started off overall with your records. You don't want to have to pull from the depths of 6-14, 7-14, 7-15. That is tough. But when you're 2-2 in conference play, that's what I'm talking about. 14 of those losses, a lot of that was non-conference losses. We just started conference play. So, you got to go out there and get those victories if you're Southern. And I'm going to harp on Southern because this is the Jaguar Journal. But, yeah, the SWAC East right now seems to be the powerful one. I would give Florida A&M, Bethune-Cookman, and Alabama State look like the 3 best teams right now as conference play has started when you look at these weekend series. But we'll see what this thing does as it continues to pan out. Prairie View winners of their last 4 games, 3-0 in conference play on the baseball side, 6-16 just right now. Let's see, can Southern University get it on track against Texas Southern today? That game for all of you guys that are out in Houston, Texas, hearing my voice. Southern won last night, 11-9. I hope you were out there cheering them on. Yesterday at 3 o'clock was the first pitch. Today, Saturday, first pitch will be at 2 p.m. So any of the Jaguar fans, get out there, go check out baseball. And tomorrow, Sunday Fun Day, 1 p.m., will be first pitch against Texas Southern. And then they'll be on the road, Lake Charles, on Tuesday, March the 28th, 6 p.m. against McNeese State. That's for all my Jaguar baseball fans that are out there. Be sure to go support them before home games next week against Alcorn State in 3-game series starting Friday, March the 31st, April the 1st, that's Saturday, and April the 2nd, that's Sunday. That April 1st game will be going on. A lot going on the Bluff because I said it'll be baseball, Southern against Alcorn State, as well as the Southern University spring game. So that's my time on baseball. If you missed it, you got to go back and listen to it again, all right? So we got to get ready to take a break. Let's stay tuned. We'll be right back. More of the Jaguar Journal. Get it rocking and rolling this Saturday morning. It's the Jaguar Journal. I'm Perry White. And football is starting to wrap up as we get closer to the spring football game. It's Saturday. Well, next Saturday, let me say that. April the 1st, Southern University will take on Southern University. Are you excited about that? Last season, Coach Eric Dooley came in, took over this program in his first season, coming over from Prairie View, leading Southern to a SWAC ship appearance against Jackson State. Two tough losses against Jackson State. That was the team that really dominated us last year. And then Southern fell again to Texas Southern. Texas Southern seems to really be having our number. And so, you move forward, but Sean McCray, who was the quarterback last year, of course, y'all know how that went. But no knock on the young man. He did what he could. He did what he could. I just leave it. He did what he could. But Southern making it to a SWAC championship appearance and losing to Jackson State. But for Southern, there are some things you want to build off of from last year. You lose some key components. I think when you look at that quarterback position, Bashawn McCray no longer with the program, transferred out. And so now you look at the quarterback battle, in which now you look at Harold Blood as a guy that can potentially be a front runner for that. Harold Blood coming from Dusterhan. He made some huge progress. He's been around the program a long time. So when you talk about leadership and ability to get those guys to corral around him, he's been there. He's a 4-year player in this program at the position that he's battled back and forth with Bashawn McCray. You saw him battle with Bubba McDaniel, Ladarius Skelton, and so many others since he's been there. But now he has an opportunity to be able to put his name in the hat, to be able to try to take over that number one spot, to be QB1 at Southern University. And that's what's going to matter, where, like I told you, I looked at quarterback position and then I worked my way out. Some talent there. It's all about where it's going to go. That running back room at Southern, you have to be excited when you bring back a Kendrick Rhymes, you bring back a Carl Liggins, you have a Gerard Sims, you have a Kobe Dillon. You got some guys that can tote that rock back there out the backfield, but with an O-line be able to be solid enough to open those lanes up and block for those guys. Will that O-line be solid enough to allow that quarterback to sit back there in that pocket and get the ball out? And will those receivers step up for Southern University on the offensive side and be the ball playing playmakers that they could be? We saw the potential in the SWAC championship. Bubba McDaniel got in, was throwing some dimes all over the field on a pretty good secondary of Jackson State. That's going to be key when you look at that side of the ball. On the other side of the ball, can Southern stop anybody? That with a high-powered offense. We seem to have struggled against the teams with the quarterbacks, and that was Texas Southern with Andrew Body. That was Jackson State with Shedeur Sanders, and then there was Florida A&M with my guy. Can't think of Florida A&M's quarterback right now. Transferred in from Vanderbilt. But those three teams Southern had problems with, because those three teams, to me, had the most solid quarterbacks in the conference. Those three quarterbacks were able to have success. Those three teams were able to beat Southern. It's going to be crucial this year when you look at it, because I think now a lot of people look at Jackson State and they say, well, with Coach Deion Sanders gone, what would they look like? I don't think they will be the same team as what they were with Deion Sanders. That's just me personally. I think now this opens the door for Willie Simmons, who has been right there in the thick of things in terms of being there to compete for a SWAC championship. Willie Simmons, in his 2 years in the conference, has only had 2 SWAC losses. Guess who they were to? Jackson State in the Orange Blossom Classic. Those 2 losses have kept Willie Simmons out of a SWAC championship and a potential Celebration Bowl. And so this is going to be interesting. Musa, that's his name, Jeremy Musa, I remember. That's going to be key when you look at that program of FAMU, because I think now the door opens for FAMU. Willie Simmons, is what he's done is continue to have a program each year that has been successful, that has had opportunities to be right there. But once they get that past Jackson State, they can win the rest of those games, and they've done it for the past 2 years. Last year, of course, strength of schedule was not quite there to get them into the FCS playoffs. But when you look overall, that is the program who I think is the closest for to win the SWAC championship right now. And it is interesting, I think, now that Deion Sanders is out the way. A lot of people say, well, Jackson State still is going to have the talent. They're still going to be able to be successful. And I think so. I don't think they're going to hit rock bottom, but I think this gives Willie Simmons' program now an opportunity to be able to get the victory. I think his teams will be able to put themselves in a position to now get they get that one victory that they need. That one victory is simply against Jackson State to get them over the hump. So that's what's going to be crucial. And I think when you look at the other side for Southern, Coach Dooley's going to have to mold up one of these quarterbacks and get them ready to play. You got a running back room, so if it's not working, if all else fails, you can put the ball on the ground. You can run the ball. I don't think there's no better running back room right now in the conference than what Southern has. But then you got to look at a program like Pine Bluff. Lonzo Hampton, who is taking over there, is kind of depleted on some talent, but it's interesting. He's coming from ULM, going up to Pine Bluff, and see what he could do. He's going to go out and try to get a lot of those Arkansas kids to try to now become a part of that program. A lot of those kids who typically may go to the Division II schools and have success. Go to UCA, the University of Central Arkansas, who's also FCS. Those kids that may go to an Arkansas State or a Memphis or a ULM or a Louisiana Tech. There are a ton of schools within the region that are close proximity to Pine Bluff. Will Lonzo Hampton be able to go out and get some of that talent, get some kids to transfer into that Pine Bluff program? That'd be interesting enough to see what that looks like. Will Eddie Robinson Jr. over at Alabama State be able to build from what he had last year? They were a pretty decent program. They pushed Jackson State. They pushed FAMU. Now, that loss at the end of the season to UAPB, yeah, that was an ugly loss, especially at home, the Turkey Day Classic. Pine Bluff had nothing to lose in that game. And what they did, they ran all over Alabama State. Questionable calls, if you look back at that game, I thought for Alabama State offensively, they were dominating on the ground and decided to want to throw the ball as they got closer towards the end zone within the red zone. To me, I just thought, man, you stick to what works. That's your bread and butter in that game, and it was working. You look at Alabama A&M. Coach Connell Maynard, they struggled last year, was able to get a couple wins, but the quarterback position still seems to be a problem. They stopped Texas Southern from possibly going to a SWAC championship in that last game. Battled back. They were down late in the fourth quarter, and when Andrew Body went down, Alabama A&M was able to get a victory. You know, you look at Hugh Jackson up at Grambling. What is Hugh able to build up there at Grambling? It's been quiet. I heard a lot of rumbles and noise last year as the recruiting and everything that they were doing, but this year's kind of quiet. Texas Southern is right there, a team that, one game away, as I just said, against Alabama A&M, could have been in the SWAC championship. The same thing with Prairie View. It's been quiet over there. One game away for them, and they could have been in the SWAC championship. So it's going to be interesting football, but as we start right here at home on the Bluff at Southern University, whether they go, and I think we'll find out as they start to wrap up spring practice this week and then get into that spring game next week, April the 1st, it's going to be opportunity for us to go out and see what these quarterbacks are going to look like, what this O-line and the trenches with the D-line is going to look like, and how can we build and possibly find our success as the season is going to start off with Alabama State on the road before hosting Jackson State for the Pete Richardson Classic. All right, we're at the top of the hour. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about basketball because I'm sure that's what you want to hear. All right, so stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of the Jaguar Journal. All right, we're back. Top of the hour is 8 o'clock. 8 something, as they would say. It ain't 8 on the dot, but it's the Jaguar Journal. I'm Perry White. Thank you for joining me this morning. Good morning, and shout out to everybody that's watching and paying attention to us on YouTube. Thank you for subscribing and get those likes up, as they always say on YouTube. And if you want to be able to come and subscribe to our YouTube and catch it, where if you're not able to listen to us in your car and you got to get out, go to our YouTube channel and keep up with us, the Jaguar Journal. Subscribe, as well as if you are listening out there on the radio, we thank you for waking up this morning, tuning in on 107.3 FM here in Baton Rouge. Let's jump into it, because I know this is what we want to talk about. 225-499-1073 is the number if you want to call in. If not, if you're on YouTube, you can ask questions or comment with us and interact with us in the comment section in the live chat on YouTube. But 225-499-1073 is the number here at the studio. Southern University has moved on from Sean Woods. Sean Woods is out as Southern's men's basketball coach. His tenure at Southern University has finally come to an end. Hired in 2018 to bring Southern men's basketball back to the top. Sean Woods was let go Wednesday, 2 weeks after the Jaguars fell apart and fell out of the conference tournament with oh my God, it was just a horrible loss against Alabama A&M. Just terrible basketball when I watched that game in the SWAC quarterfinals. Woods, in 5 seasons at Southern University, his overall record was 64-81. Woods, in his 5th season, in 5 seasons at Southern, his record was 64-81. No conference championships, no trips to the NCAA tournament, no NIT. Let you sit on that a little bit. I know a lot of people, and I like Sean Woods. You know, he was the guy that every time he was around, I spoke with him. He was but I understand this ain't personal, it's business. It ain't personal, it's business. And when you got a record at Southern at 64-81 overall, no conference championships. Let's just start there. Let's circle that. No conference championships in 5 seasons. And I think the biggest part of when you see this 64-81 overall record, no conference championships, and no trips to the NCAA tournament, I think it's how it transpired in the way that it happened. You would see Southern go out in non-conference, and they would get a victory here and there against non-conference opponents. This year, they beat Cal. Yeah, out of the Pac-12, Southern's basketball team beat Cal, right? Last year, they beat Kent State, a team that won the MAC championship, a team that was pretty good in the NCAA overall tournament. So you can go get some victories in non-conference. Get me excited for conference. And when conference play starts, Southern was, hey, they got it going. Every year we saw it. You would start out that early part of conference play, and you will get to by the time you get on the back end of that Grambling game, once you peak up and you get that midseason game, then you on the backside. And somewhere down the line on that backside, Southern would just fall apart. When I say fall apart, I mean literally fall apart. Roll a ball of rubber bands and let them bounce and roll until you just see them ultimately fall apart, and then just boom. It's not a ball anymore. It's just a bunch of rubber bands everywhere. That was what was happening to Southern's basketball team. Then they would get down into the conference tournament. And if you watch the conference tournament this year against Alabama A&M, I mean, Alabama A&M was not a good basketball. Just keep it real. They weren't a good basketball team. Texas Southern exposed them quick in the semifinal. They weren't good. But what did they do? They dominated Southern. Southern lived and died by the 3-point. Southern struggled at the free throw line. And that cost us a lot of games down the stretch. And when you look back at this season, I can recall being in the Mini Dome. For y'all that don't know, that's the Mini Dome, the F.G. Clark Activity Center. And Southern beats the number 1 team, Alcorn, in conference. It was the battle for first place. We were riding high. We beat them on our court in a hard-fought, tough, physical, knockout, drag-out game. Oh, it was tough. But something happened at the end of the game, and we wasn't right since. We go dunk the ball as the time expired. Now, look, I didn't have a problem with it. I know a lot of people talk about sportsmanship. Hey, it is what it is. We see it all the time, though, with that last dunk at the end of the game. But you go out then, that was on a Saturday. You beat Jackson State that Monday at home. 2 games at home, Alcorn and Jackson. Won't forget them because I was at both of them. And after that, I don't know what happened. We went on a road trip to Florida, struggled. Struggled against both Alabama schools, the Alabama State and Alabama A&M. You went on the road, you lost to Pine Bluff, in which that was wacky. They only played one time. Normally it's to be back and back, home and home. You lost on what I thought was a crucial time for school when you look at recruiting on national television to Grambling out in Utah for the NBA All-Star. And it just became like, all right, what's going on here? How we ended up in this situation? This didn't look like this the same way just a couple weeks ago. It was all good in the neighborhood, as the old folks used to say. It's all good in the hood. It was good in the hood just a couple weeks ago. Then all hell broke loose, and every time you look around, it's like, what's going on? But it was a disappointing end for Woods, a former Kentucky point guard who had earned his reputation as a rising star. I can remember that team he had at Mississippi Valley. If you've been watching SWAC basketball or SWAC sports as much as long as I have, I remember him coming to Baton Rouge with that SWAC team up there in Mississippi Valley. Man, they were tough. They were tough. Woods' best team at Southern was during the 2019 and 2020 season when the Jaguars finished 13-5 in SWAC play to claim second place. They took a 7-game winning streak into the conference tournament and won their quarterfinal game. I remember that was against Alabama State at home. They were finna get ready to go into the SWAC semifinals in that tournament, but guess what happened? COVID-19 happened. And it was during that time where you start to see all of the teams and all of the conferences doing their conference tournament start axing it. Oh, we're done. Nope, we're done. Nope, we're done. This season, Southern led the conference in scoring at 71.9 points a game, and the Jaguars won 8 of their first 9 games. That's that high I'm talking about. When you're going up that heat, you've been on a roller coaster. That roller coaster got to shake you, got to rock you, it got to climb you all the way to the top. But then it drops. And as they say, they came crashing down in the stretch, dropping 7 of their last 10. So you win 8 of your first 9, but you drop 7 of your last 10. The offense that went cold, shooting 34% from the floor. That's the horrible shooting that I'm talking about, 34%. And a lot of these games, you look at, man, living and dying by the three-pointer. At the same time, the free throw shooting. The free throw shooting. Woods finished 3rd in the SWAC in 2021 and 22 and faded down the stretch. He started the conference at 9-2 and finished 3-4 to close out. You started to hear why this sounds so familiar. That was last year. This year he comes in and wins 8 of his first 9 and loses 7 of the final 10. Last year he starts 9-2, finishes 3-4. Shooting 37% from the floor against opponents last year, in which they finished overall 12-20. 37% last year, it went down to 34% this year. That's tough. Give y'all a second to just think about the numbers that I'm putting out there, because it is tough. When he was at Mississippi Valley, the Delta Devils went 7-25 in his first season, but improved every year after that, accumulating a dominant showing in 2011 and 12, in which that team went 17-1 in SWAC play. They won the regular season and the conference tournament. Of course, Woods would go on after Mississippi Valley and take a job at Morehead State, in which he reached 20 wins twice in 4+ seasons. But his teams never reached the NCAA tournament, and I'm not going to talk about everything that happened after that in terms of him being suspended. But then Coach Roman Banks, who was Southern University's basketball coach, was successful, ended up moving over to the administration role to take over as the athletic director. We had Morris Scott that's filled in. He was a former assistant under Roman Banks. Morris Scott, y'all remember him? An assistant. He took over in the interim role in one season, and then after that, he just kind of disappeared. Coach Scott, Coach Mo just, they pushed him on out and brought in Sean Woods. And Sean Woods came in to run this program and never could get it together. The Jaguars have just won 2 SWAC regular season titles since 1990. They've made the NCAA tournament just 3 times since 1993. And so Southern has hired, and when you look at the 5 coaches that's been in the past, Michael Grant, Rob Spivey, boy, I'll tell you about them teams I saw of him. Roman Banks, Morris Scott, and now Sean Woods. So this is interesting now as Southern wants to go in a different direction. Who's it going to be? That's the big question. Tell me on YouTube if you're in the live chat. Call in 225-499-1073. A lot of people speculate Scott LaVille's basketball coach, a guy that is 14 straight state championship appearances. I think he won 8 of them. He put in his letter of resignation last week. And then, boom, this happens. I've thrown out a name, Mike Anderson. Coach that's St. John's, they pushed him out the way to get Rick Pitino. Seemed like that deal was already going on while he was in place. But we'll figure it out. We'll talk more about it. Give you something to think about while we're on the break. So let's get ready to take one. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. More of the Jaguar Journal. You can keep it going. Let that rock a little bit. I ain't got nothing to do this Saturday. You just gonna cut that off on me like that? Oh, okay. Hey, I'm like, God, dog, man. My man Mike back here on the on the board. Dang, Mike, don't cut me off like that, man. Come on. All right, I got you. I was ready to rock to it. I mean, you just party's over. All right. Good morning, everybody. It's the Jaguar Journal. I'm Perry White, man. We getting the thing going this morning. Of course, if you just tuned in, the chat is going in today on YouTube, man. I like what's going on in there. Keep the conversations going in the chat, man. There's some good stuff being talked about in there. A lot of people want to know, they're interested in terms of Southern's quarterback play. They're interested to know who's going to be the next coach. Will Southern make a lazy hire, or will they go out and make a, I wouldn't say a splash hire, but what makes sense? And if you want to call in, Chris, you can call in. I'm sure you're listening. CJ, I can't believe CJ quiet. Typically, this is something he jumps in. Well, Perry, I think, call in 225-499-1073. This is the number 225-499-1073 is the number. Last week, Southern University moves on from Coach Sean Woods after 5 years, 64-81 overall record at Southern University. And now they want to move in a different direction. Of course, a lot of people had threw out there. We saw a successful high school basketball coach right here in Baton Rouge, right down the street from Southern University at Scotlandville. Carlos Semple announced he was stepping down after 16 years at Scotlandville. During his time at Scotlandville, Semple finished with a 482 wins to 83 losses. 482 and 83. And an overall 676 victories to 198 losses. So, of course, a lot of people, when they saw that happen last week, he put in his resignation. That started to get the conversation and chatter going. First thing I did was saw it on social media. Led Scotlandville to 14 straight championship appearances. He won 8 of them. They fell short this year. He went 8-6 in title games, fell short this year to Catholic. That was the name a lot of people, and they still are excited about. So Carlos Semple's the name everybody's throwing out there. Could have happened. He's the guy that, knows the talent of the region and the area. When you go to 14 straight basketball state championships, that means you got something there. That's a program. That's a dynasty. And you go 8-6. It's better than LeBron. He went to a lot of championships, didn't he? But, of course, Carlos Semple's name is out there. There's some other names. I've been pushing the name, and I have my own agenda. It's not a personal agenda. It's just an agenda that I think could be good for the school. I threw out Mike Anderson, former assistant under Nolan Richardson at Arkansas. He was with Nolan when they won a national title at Arkansas in the 90s. He went on to coach at UAB. Went on to coach at Arkansas later on. Coached at St. John. And St. John just let him go. Didn't even have a losing season. They let him go to bring in Rick Pitino, who just now signed a 6-year deal with St. John. And I believe right now, with how things are going, Mike Anderson's going to get his money. I ain't worried about that. Mike Anderson's going to get his money. He has an overall record of 438 wins to 257 losses, 9 NCAA appearances, tournament appearances, 2 Sweet 16s, 1 Elite 8. He's currently only one of 3 coaches in Division I basketball that has never had a losing season in 15 years. That success, to me, can be brought here to this level. A man who's made his money. He's on the back end of the career. He's 63 years old. Who he can bring in someone and mold them up. He'll be around for a while. Never had a losing season. That's worthy to me. And he's black man. At a HBCU. I know a lot of people all the time, when you get the naming these type of names, well, we don't have the money. I don't like excuses. Don't give me an excuse. A conversation and a good genuine conversation. I know people about their paper, but a good genuine conversation will go far when you sit down and you talk to people and you let them know what you have to offer and what we can do for you. I don't ever feel like anything's out of reach. I feel like everything is within reach. It's all about how you present it and how you go about doing it. That's for me, Mike Anderson. I know people are saying Avery Johnson. That's a name to put out there. I personally don't know if Avery would want to come back and coach. Of course, we know Avery was coaching at the NBA level recently. His most recent college coaching job was at the University of Alabama. So that would be interesting. Let's go to the phone lines. We got a caller. Good morning.
Hey, Perry, how you doing this morning?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
All right, this is Chris.
Man, no, we know your voice, Chris. Come on.
Well,
I was just trying to be act like I didn't know, but we know who this is.
yeah, man. Look, you can stop the madness. You can stop the madness.
Come on, I know you've been waiting on this one. Come on, give it to me, Chris. Come on.
Well, we're in the same situation we was when Coach Banks took over. A lot of the chatter was that we could did better than Coach Banks. But it's just like the same situation it is right now. You got to look at what's best for Southern University in their situation, based upon the things that we coming off of that deal. And, man, I read the article you was reading, and, man, it's just like a nightmare. It's just like an absolute nightmare. I didn't realize Rob Spiver was that bad. There's certain things in life you ought to not remember, and I sure don't want to remember the Rob Spiver. 38 and 114 in 5 years, and we still writing this man a check.
Look,
I mean,
let me tell you how bad it was, Chris. I remember when Spivey had that team. It was one of the first Southern games I went to when I came here, and they played Jackson State. Jackson State,
Right.
It was a dunk contest for Jackson State. I said,
Right.
man, I'm not going back to another Southern basketball game.
And I mean, just horrible. And then the sad part about that deal was we should have hired his assistant, because his assistant beat his brains out constantly. The Jackson guy beat his brains out constantly. And then when you look at the fact, 2 regular season championships at basketball since 1990, it's just those things that just come back up that just, oh man, just make you wonder how,
It don't even seem real, does it? I feel like it's
No,
been
it
more than that.
It doesn't. But, this same thing, like I said, concerning Carlos is the best thing for us right now. One of the things is first of all, he know all the kids in Louisiana. What's the first thing you hear people say? You even heard Flood say it on here. They got enough talent in Baton Rouge. When I talked about Damian Lillard only got 2 scholarship offers out of college, out of high school up in Oakland. And he said, you got enough talent right here. Well, don't nobody know the talent better than Coach Sample in the state of Louisiana especially. And you got to figure a lot of these guys that are in other schools, because he's put a lot of guys in D1 ball as far as scholarships and what have you. And with the transport portal and different things like that, and guys getting a chance to come back with Coach, it just will be a win-win. Then the other connection is the simple fact he's what you call him his protege. He's Avery Johnson's protege. He took over for Avery. You think Avery don't want to see him succeed and won't necessarily give him the necessary resources that he have to? Because Avery ain't coming back. Avery making too much money. Avery making way, and Avery making easy money. He making money with the United States government. So you can scratch Avery coming back to coaching. But he would be there to support Carlos, though. He would be there to support Carlos because he was supposed to be the second coming of Avery, which everybody knew he wasn't going to be as good as Avery, but he wasn't bad. He knows the conference and everything like that. But the main thing, we need a fluctuation and infusion of talent. We need more notoriety. I mean, think about this man won 85% of his games at Scotlandville. 85%. Who has an 85% winning percentage in anything over a 16-year period? So personally, I think we'd be blessed if we could get it, let alone, I know we got to go through the due process and everything like that. But as far as resurrecting Southern basketball, former Jaguar, all SWAC player, I mean, it just don't get no better than that. Now, that's just fact. That's just fact.
Well, you know how I look at it, Chris? This is my world with it. And this is Perry. This is how I think sometimes. This is not how it's probably going to go. It's not going to go like this at all. But the type of way that I be thinking, if it was me,
This is just me. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I like Mike Anderson. I said I would go after Mike Anderson. And what I would do is I would bring in Carlos Sample and I would let him come under him and basically get him ready. I think them two, and this is my world, them two together, considering Mike Anderson with the experience and who he was under, then you bring in a coach like Carlos and you get a guy like Mike who comes in for a few years, say, hey, I got coaching left. Let me get him ready. Let me show him the ropes in terms of the college, and then it's all yours to take off. That's just my mind, but that's what I would, I guess, in my own perfect world, the way that I would have wanted
Well, yeah, well, yeah,
You can
yeah,
laugh at
well,
me. You can say
yeah,
he crazy.
I think like
yeah,
that.
that's that Arkansas person. But you down in the dirty South right now. I'm telling you, ain't happening.
Hey, let's go wrong with Carlos now. Now just get it over with, huh?
Well, you just got to go. That's just the way they work it down here. Then him being the Baton Rouge guy and everything like that. I'm telling you. I'm just saying what it would do for the community, what it would do for the stands, what it would do for the fans. You'll start having people coming to the game. You'll have people that's been scholarly supporters, those parents and different things like that. Man, it's just a win-win situation. You know, you can. Man, I mean, he's 54 too, Barry. Come on now, he ain't looking to try to be no assistant this late in the game. You know, I mean, he's 54. And then what it might get down here, and he like it, Mike say, oh, I'm going to go another 5 years. Then he be 59.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I don't think it's about the name. For me, it's just about who can bring the success. I mean, if we do get Mike and Carlos there, and they are a great duo, I'm okay with that. As long as
Yeah.
we winning, that's all I matter. I mean, I'm throwing out names, and I'm only doing that because I'm looking at guys in terms of the way I think and the way I'm looking at it. But I don't care as long as we winning. You know, and even if Carlos is never the head coach at Southern, as long as he goes somewhere and be successful, I just want to see people be successful, including us. And, you know, I get it. There's guys still 50-something, 60-something years old, assistants in the league. Some guys, you know, that's just it is. It's a part of the process. But I get what you're saying. I don't think I want to be 54, 50-something years old and I'm still an assistant coach.
I mean, it's a win-win situation for us. I mean, it's a win-win situation for us. So, you know, we have nothing. I mean, Carlos would more than meet any expectations that we could possibly think about having. I mean, it's a win-win situation. In other words, it's not like you falling behind a Pete Richardson, all right?
Yeah.
You're not following a certain standard, okay? I mean, you look at the coaches. You just named them. Look at the coaches you just named. So it's not no deal about where we want to bring this new. You got to get somebody that's going to galvanize the fan base, and Carlos Sample going to do that. Not only be able to reach out to all these guys that he coached against, 14 straight title appearances in the highest level of ball in your state.
Mm-hmm.
All those guys that know him or whatever, talk about relationships and what have you. You know, maybe some of those guys are even coaching somewhere now. The connection that he would have in the relationship he has with Avery, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It is a no-brainer. I know they got to do their due diligence. I know they got to go through this and go through that. But when you're talking about from an economic standpoint, the ticket sales going to increase, the atmosphere, the support is going to increase. It's going to be just like Coach Dooley, even at a higher level. I'll put it to you like that. The same way Coach Dooley coming back home galvanized everybody. And the thing of it is, Carlos done won. That's the big difference. Carlos has won, and he's won big. So, I mean, you know, it's a no-brainer to me, Perry.
I think it'll be interesting as this thing unfolds. You know, if we at that point where it's just sit back, wait, and watch. I reached out to Roman Banks. He said he'll probably be on in the next couple of weeks, so I'm pretty sure by the time he does come on, he wants to cross all his T's and dot his I's. And so, you know, I'll try to see what I can get out of him. But I don't know. I'm on the outside looking in. I'm just in Perry's world, and this is what Perry would want for Southern for me. And I'm selfish when it comes to it, but I won't be overbearing on everybody else because I'm not the only one who has a thought process in terms of how they would like to see this program move forward.
Yeah, and one more thing, Perry. Had you heard anything about an impact coaching clinic that's going to go on next Saturday while the spring game is going on over at Southern Lab?
I haven't. That's something I need to look into.
Yeah, well, it's a coaching clinic that's being put on by SNAP, which is a group of guys from Capital High School, led by Coach Michael Roach. And
Mm-hmm.
man, they got some outstanding guests that's gonna be there. It's gonna be 8:30 to 3, and it's gonna be over at the Lab School. Coaching clinic gonna have a lot of people there. Malcolm Roach, who played with the Saints, he's gonna be there. Cam Jordan supposed to be there. Rufus Porter, Ken Ellis, Ted White, Danny Johnson, Councilman McCole, Louis Mativier. They got a lot of different people that's gonna be there. Melvin Spears. So it's going to be a big deal, and I hadn't heard you. I was trying to get in touch with you, but, I don't really do social media where I could have given you Coach Roach's number where you could have got him on the phone and talked to him about it, let him explain everything that's being involved in it. But that's taking place next Saturday.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that. Maybe we can get somebody on next Saturday morning to talk about it.
Yeah, well, like I said, you can get with me, and I can get you Coach Roach's number, and you can get in touch with him, and then just inform the people. Former Southern great linebacker, Coach Michael Roach. So it's going to be a big deal that they got going on. Got a lot going on next Saturday, Perry.
Yes, sir.
With the crawfish ball and everything like that, the fundraiser that's taking place. But yeah, Perry, squash that other noise and get behind this Carlos Sampson train. Because either you're gonna get on the train or you're gonna get left on the side of the tracks. I'm telling you right now.
I just want to be successful. I just want to see us be successful. That's all.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, we don't have far to go to reach that standard. Coach Woods, like you said, he just couldn't get it done. And and you hate to speculate, and like you said, you can talk about the other things that transpire. But when you see guys start off good and then start wearing down, some things probably transpiring that we don't know about or we're not privy to. So, it is what it is. But the bottom line, the pattern seems to fall in every time. And then you come in with new teams just about every year. Seems like the honeymoon is great until you get to know somebody, and then seem like it just starts going downhill.
Mm-hmm.
Because for two seasons in a row, we got beat 3 times by Grambling. Then we turn around and get beat 3 times by Alabama A&M. That's just not acceptable. And so, we don't have nowhere to go but up. But Coach Carlos Sampson, he would be the one. And like I said, you can't say he hadn't been successful. He has what you call a real championship pedigree. And that's what we need to bring back. That's what he experienced when he was at Southern. So that's my 2 cents, Perry. Enjoy the show. Continue to keep on doing what you're doing. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you for coming on, man. I enjoy it.
All right.
All right. Let's go to the phone line. We got another caller. Who we got? DJ, good morning.
Good morning, Perry. How you guys doing? You got the famous Chris. I hate to go behind him, and I hate to, challenge anything he said. But look, we have some problems at Southern right now, and it ain't got nothing to do with who we gonna get as a coach or what we gonna do as who we do get to come in and lead our program. Perry, we got to look at what we got to deal with, or who got to deal with what we have to be successful. It's a lot of things that Southern got to do before we talking about even Carlos Samples. I'm a Carlos Samples man. But if you went to that championship game that they lost to Cali High, he didn't lose that game because he didn't have talent. He lost that game because he got out-coached. And that's the thing that you got to understand when you come on this level. High school coaching is real good. You can win a lot of games just with talent. But when you start getting on the college level, the game changes. You don't have to worry about what talent you got versus how you coaching what you have to win games. It's a big thing as to why the guy didn't stay at Alabama. It wasn't because he didn't have talent. Avery lost a lot of games that he just got out-coached. Now, at Southern, you're going to come in and get an instant success story. Look, Carlos, even if he do what he wants to do and get what he wants to get, Perry, Carlos Sample is not going to come to Southern and win instantly right off top of the bat. It's a lot of things that he got to learn, a lot to do. It's a big difference between high school coaching and college coaching. Otis Washington proved that to us. He took all them championships at St. Augustine, and then when he got to Southern, it was a struggle. So Now you got to look at somebody who you can look at on the college level that has matched up with the college level, outdid the college level, and come to Southern. And then when you get to Southern, what you gonna pay them? You got an athletic director making $300,000 a year. You got a football coach making $350 a year. You got a basketball coach making $100 and something. Perry, you're not gonna get no top flight name in basketball at any school making $100 and some thousand dollars a year.
You know, CJ, I guess that's why I said the name that I put, a guy that's qualified, because Mike Anderson has made his money, and I never could say that he's made enough
He was
money.
making over $3 million at
Yeah.
St. John. So now, how are you gonna drop down from $3 million to $150,000?
Well, I use it in this sense that he's made his money, and right now, I mean, at 63 years old, he still has never had a losing season. He is a guy that if you can put him in place, and that's why I said in my world how I would like to have it. This is Perry, but this is the way I would go out. And like I say, you ain't never too far out of reach until you have the conversation with somebody. But I would bring in a Mike Anderson. I would bring in a Carlos Sample. And just because of the reasons that you just said, the transitioning from the high school coaching to the college coaching, a guy like Mike Anderson, he was under Nolan Richardson, a guy who had a lot of experience. Mike got a lot of experience. You can let a guy like Mike, who has the pedigree that he has, mentor Carlos. Doesn't have to be long. Yes, Carlos is of age, but hey, you ain't never too old to learn something new. And so you bring him in and then you let him teach him on that level. Hey, just the transition from the high school to the college. You'll be the guy in terms of knowing the high school talent and know where and when to go get it. And I'll show you the college level in terms of how we coach the X's and O's and be able to get this. That's why I looked at it that way. Yeah, he made $3 million. Hey, so Hugh Jackson was making millions of dollars in the NFL, wasn't he? And he came down to the SWAC. I mean,
And he getting his head beat in too, right?
I mean, that's just year one.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm just saying, but people would think that was
But
too
Terry,
far
this is
fetched
what
to
I'm
go get
trying to
somebody who's been making millions that we couldn't get them here. And I always say, don't let that because somebody was making millions automatically not say that they're not or they won't come to our level.
They're not going to come, Perry. I hate to say it, but they're not going to come. Another thing is, when I say that, is when you bring them to our campus, and they've been a part of all these programs that got all these first-class facilities that they can work and show off to the potential players that they want to bring in, they got a win-win situation for them. But what do Southern has to offer when it comes to basketball program? That's a program all by itself that is a standalone at a lot of colleges all by itself. They don't have their own dormitories that they're going to be sending these 15 boys to. They don't have all the other intellectual things that they're going to be able to give these boys to get their grades right and maintain their grade average and so forth and so on. Then they don't have the money that you can clearly see they're not going to be putting in the program. The girls has been doing halfway decent, just struggling. Just a lot of it has to do with luck. A lot of it has to do with this or that. But still, at the end of the day, we still need some things that need to be done there. But
and that's another reason why I say Mike Anderson, he understands how to run the program. He understands what we need, how to go out and get it.
Done, but we ain't prepared ourselves. Look, man, you don't even have anything that you will satisfy anything from a guy on that level to come in and say he'll turn this program around. Because these guys ain't going to come here and make no embarrassment of themselves, okay? They already got at the top of the level, and they don't want to drop down. But right now, we just need to look at who we can bring in here to take the program to the, just give us some leverage here. But it's going to be hard for a high school coach to come out of the 10 championships that he done had to bring a winner to Southern with the level of everybody else who brought their programs up. Alcorn has got a good program. That's a good coach over there. Grambling done beat us the last 2 years without no problem. They escalated their program. We're the only one been at a standstill. We don't have the facilities. Our facilities is got a lot to be desired.
I'm with you there. I'm with you.
And then when you start talking about a basketball, look, you ain't gonna get no basketball coach for under $300,000 that's gonna come here. There's too much stuff they got to work with that they got to prove to a kid. I'm gonna make some changes. I'm gonna do something because we don't have what they've been looking at and what they've been given from other programs. All I'm just trying to say, we got a lot of work to do before we start looking at a winning program again, no matter who you bring in here. Southern University got to do some things first to prove to anybody that they need to do something to make this thing happen the way it's supposed to happen. And I just wanted to say that little two bit. I wanted to say it while I had Chris on the phone because, Chris got an inside scoop on everything. But maybe I get on the show with him next week or week after that. We'll sit up there and duel it out on that.
Okay, I'll let y'all do that. CJ, we're going to build that one up all week. I like that.
Well, no, it might be Chris and CJ versus Perry. Yeah, and yeah, bring Reggie on too. So, all right, man. Thanks a lot. Good show. Let you know. All right.
No, we got to close the line. Hold on for me 1 second. We're going to get ready to take a break. When we come back, I'll go straight to you. So y'all stay tuned. We're going to take a quick break. It's the Jaguar Journal.
All right, we're back. The Jaguar Journal. Let's go straight to the phone line. Got Mike on the line. Yeah, we got him. Good morning.
Hey, Perry, what's up, guy?
Hey, not much. What's the word?
Look, I just want to touch base on, the topic about the new basketball coach. And, I'm kind of with you. I'm hoping that they do some forward thinking. But I will say this, something like CJ was talking about, being a high school coach and the adjustments that you have to make, which is true, for the most part, it's true. But I have to remind coaches ever came from the high school ranks in South Baton Rouge, and he went on to send, and I don't think anybody else has ever done this in the SWAC, let alone Southern, send 8 to 9 players to the NBA, and we're not talking about second, 8th or 15th round player. He says like Tommy Green, Pop, I don't have to go through the name. CJ and Chris both know those guys I'm talking about. So there's that. On the other hand, again, like I'm kind of with you, maybe bring in a different name, somebody that's been successful at the higher level, and don't concern yourself with how much of a salary they make. Like our old folks used to always tell you, nothing beats the failure but a try. So it's not going to hurt to act. Because again, in the same token, we've had that experience before. People remember one of our most successful coaches that ever been there hired a local high school coach as an assistant, and that was Ben Joe. So it's pros and cons of both. And just like you, I just want them to be successful. Which we've been in the, I guess would you say, in the dumps way, way, way too long, fooling around with lazy hires, and we need to stop making lazy hires. And that's all I got to say about it.
Let me ask you this before you go. Who was the coach that you said
sure.
that was from the area?
Carl Stewart.
Carl Stewart. Okay.
Yeah, Carl Stewart.
Well, thank you for the call this morning. Appreciate you, man.
All
Call
right.
back
All
anytime.
right. All right.
All right. Let's go to another caller.
Got him rolling this morning. Good morning.
Yeah, Perry, this is me. I had to come back and let my man CJ talk and everything like that. And basically, CJ basically echoed everything he did. I don't know whether he know it or not, but CJ made my point completely.
CJ said y'all gonna jump me one of these weeks. I'm ready for y'all too.
What I'm saying is he actually made my point. Then Mike came up and with Coach Carl Stewart, which I knew somebody was gonna bring that up. I mean, one of the most successful coaches we had came from the Blue Machine down in McKinley, where he was outstanding high school coach. And the thing of it is the very thing that CJ talking about. We don't have this. We don't have that. You got to get this in place. You got this. Do you think that if Carlos Samper applied for the job with the relationship he has with the AD, they don't have a plan laid out for him to be successful? I'll take my chances with that. Now, don't get me wrong. I agree with the forward thinking like you and Mike talking about, but all I'm saying is that the same way when we hired Coach Roman Banks from Southeastern, the word was we could have got better than that. But we was on probation. We was in APR hell, and he understood what he was coming into. I'm not saying that Carlos is the best candidate. I'm saying for Southern University, based upon what my friend CJ say, the problems we got, he understands it. He knows what he's dealing with, and the preparation that he would make versus somebody that's got no idea. That's what Hugh Jackson experiencing up in Grambling. I mean, look at Hugh Jackson. Hugh Jackson is at Grambling because why? His resume is as a loser, as a coach. So, I mean, it's a great opportunity for him. Same thing with Will Wade at McNeese State. You think Will Wade would go to McNeese State except the things that's falling behind him would allow him to go there? So even if you get somebody, you're probably going to get somebody that has to have back. Now, like you say, with Coach Mike Anderson, yeah, you got nothing to do, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. But at the end of the day, C.J. Gidry made all my points on why Carlos Samper ought to be the coach. I don't know whether he know it or not, but he made all my points. Because this guy, he knows the lay of the land. He won't be blindsided. He knows what he's getting into. And if between him and the athletic director, they don't think he can be successful, why fool with it? Why take a chance? That's all I got to say.
I appreciate that, Chris. I'm gonna get y'all both on here. I think we got it. We do got another caller. Who is that? Hey, Chris, we're gonna Chris, we're gonna let you go. Let's get another caller
All
on.
right.
All right, thank you, man. All right, let's take this next caller. William, good morning. It's the Jaguar Journal.
Good morning, Perry. How are you?
Doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Perry, I would like to see us, Southern University, try to hire like a young coach, a young assistant coach at maybe a mid-major school. Not Mike Anderson. I don't want to see us hire sort of like a retread, somebody that's 60-some years old. I would like to see us hire a young and up-and-coming coach.
Who you think? Who you got in mind? And are they currently a college program coach, or what are you thinking?
Yes, I would say, a current assistant coach at a good mid-major school. I don't have any name, but I would just like to see us hire a younger coach, really. A coach maybe, say, somewhere between the age of 35 and maybe 45. That's at a good school, and I think that can be done.
Does it matter if he's black or white?
Doesn't matter if he's black or white.
Just find somebody who's young and up and coming.
Up and coming, really. I think Mike Anderson may be a good coach, but I would rather see us hire somebody that's younger, really.
Okay.
Not somebody that's a retread.
I can respect that.
Okay.
I would have liked it better if you had gave me at least one name of somebody out there so I could start looking at them. A young coach, a young up and coming coach. Somebody that's out there. You got to give me some. You got to go dig deep and give me some names next week.
Okay. Well, I'll have to try to do that. But yeah, I just think the athletic director can do that, really. Yeah. I haven't watched a whole lot of college basketball this season to know who's the up and young coming coach, really. So I believe that the athletic director know who they are, really. And as far as Carlos Sample, I think he would be a good candidate, but I'm not sure what the university's nepotism policy is. Because if I'm not mistaken, I think Carlos Sample is Coach Banks' brother, I believe. I think.
I don't know the family tree, but I've heard that.
Yeah, and that would be he would be his supervisor. So I'm not sure what the nepotism policy is as well.
Okay.
But I think he would be a good coach. But like I said, I don't know what the nepotism policy is. Especially you would be reported. Your direct supervisor would be your relative, really. So I'm not sure about that one, really.
That's a good point. That'll be interesting how things transpire, man. I thank you for calling in this morning, man. Call back anytime you want.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Man, good show today, man. We're running out of time. It seemed like y'all getting hot at the last minute, man. I needed y'all a whole hour ago, getting y'all rocking and rolling. But, of course, it's a good conversation as we start to talk about who's going to be the next head guy at Southern University basketball. Interesting. I want to thank everybody that's on YouTube been tuning in. The chat been going crazy this morning in the live chat on YouTube. They're having a good conversation going back and forth in there. So if you have not already done it, go on YouTube, subscribe to the Jaguar Journal, become a subscriber, get that live notification every time we go live each and every week, as well as we want your support because you can always go back and watch or re-listen to any of these because I know it's tough to get up at 7 to 9 in the morning on a Saturday. This might be your only off day and you're looking to just sleep in. And so this gives an opportunity for you guys to go back and listen and watch the show. And I want to thank everybody who's already subscribed. I want to thank everybody who's listening on YouTube, everybody in the chat in terms of the conversations that they've been having. And I want to thank everybody who's live listening to Radio 107.3 FM here in Baton Rouge. And also you can listen on the 107.3 app anywhere in the world. So we're on multiple streams. There's no way you can say, hey, I didn't hear the Jaguar Journal, but the YouTube gives you the ability to go back and listen to it after the fact. Once we off the radio, that's over with. And I think it's the same way with the live stream on the 107 Talk Radio app. There's no go back and no playback. So I want to thank everybody for out there listening, man. I've been trying to hold it down today. It's good conversation. We'll have next week. It'll be Southern University spring game. Of course, Southern taking on Texas Southern for all of our Houston listeners out there today. Go support the Jaguars. They'll take on McNeese State on Tuesday for everybody in the Lake Charles area. That is baseball. And then the 3-game series with Alcorn State next week at home, along with
the Southern University spring football game. So a lot that's going to be happening on the Bluff. I got to decide whether I'm going to be here in studio next week or out on the Bluff. I'm not sure, but we'll figure it out. But I want to thank everybody for listening. Hey, subscribe, and hey, we'll catch you next week, same time, same place, because as always, it's the Jaguar Journal.